All right, guys, it is time to find out which saw is better. There has been argument after argument. Both saws cut the same wood, they have the same blade, and they cut the same, except there's a lot of key features that make them different. My go-to preference is always this Sidewinder because I've been using it for 20 years and it's what I'm used to. I just recently bought this saw to try it out and to just gauge if I could learn to like it. Few key things. This saw definitely has more torque than this saw. It has higher RPM. Definitely a heavier saw as well, but it has a longer reach. So you can see I can reach out a lot further with this one than if I take this one. I'm a couple inches shorter. A lot of people like these saws because if you're right-handed, you get to see the blade. If I'm cutting here, the blade is in my eyesight versus the Sidewinder. You do have to look over top of the saw. One thing I love about this saw is the rafter slash I-joist hook. It's got your normal 2-inch hook here for any rafters, but it's got this extra wide setting for 2.5-inch joist versus these other ones have the smaller clips. Now, let's talk about cons. Here's one thing that I don't like about this saw. Let's say I'm ripping here, for example. I got this board ripping down to 4 inches. Running it in here. The tendency is you're gonna wanna hold your board back here to try to keep it stable. That's a big no-no. Do not ever put your hand behind this saw when you're running it, because I go to start this saw, I'm in the cut, and I have my hand here. If my blade is against the wood, it's gonna kick back, and good chance I could cut my finger, lose my thumb. So always make sure you're keeping your hand ahead of the saw. If you use these Sidewinders, when you're making a rip, the natural tendency is to hold the board away from the blade because you're looking over the blade. Natural tendency is not gonna be to put your hand back here because that feels awkward. So that is a key safety thing that just is more natural with the Sidewinders. You can look over the blade like this, and that is how I'll rip something. I'll just look to this side of the saw. Another key feature with the Sidewinders, they are a good bit lighter and they're a little handier for doing reach cutting. I prefer them to do long reach cutting if you're up on ladders. Most important thing that I really like about these Sidewinders versus the rear drive saws is cutting bevels. So need a 3-pitch bevel, 14-degree angle. Cutting the bevel is much easier because what I can do is when I cut my long point, I can just sight right down this peephole. And it's much easier to sight your blade. If you want to cut long point with these, it's a lot more difficult to sight your blade. If I want to cut long point with this rear drive, I have to obviously turn my saw like this, and then it's a little more awkward and it just doesn't feel as natural. That's my opinion anyway. Just a few things that's makes these two saws a little bit different. The only reason I prefer these Sidewinders is because I've had 20 years of experience with it and I'm used to cutting everything with these saws, but these saws are just fine and dandy if that's what you're used to. But let me know, which saw do you prefer and what are the pros and cons on each saw?